Welcome to the Rotary Club of Beaumont. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. If you're on Zoom, if you'll please mute your microphone. Your Facebook page, if you have your phone with you. Today, our invocation is going to be brought to us by past President Tim Sedella, President of American Valve and Hydrant, and our pledges, Sherry Pierce, Director of Neighborhood Ministries, Wesley United Methodist Church. Tim.
Thank you, President Cindy. And thank you, Mandy Clayton, for asking me to say the blessing this afternoon. Anybody else that would like to volunteer to either do the pledge or the prayer, please get with Mandy Clayton. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the rain from the clouds, which refreshes our land and helps our flowers to grow. We also thank you for the rain from our trials, which test our faith and helps our perseverance to grow. Help us to be mindful when our brothers and sisters are facing trials, that we may offer words of encouragement or simply the support of our presence. Help us to be your hands, your voice, your touch when others feel distance from your loving grace. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, if you would please join me in the pledges to our nation's flag and our state's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now to the state of Texas. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Tim and Sherry. We have one guest with us today, Amy Lawson, guest of Jay Wilson. Welcome. Glad to have you again. Now on to club business. Campaign Chair Kevin Reed is going to come up and talk about Let's Build a Nest.
Good afternoon. I just want to give a quick update about the Cardinal Nest program. And I was told that we needed to be reminded what it was. So the Nest, N-E-S-T, it stands for Navigating Excellence, Success, Triumph, and it is an innovative learning lab system. So it does involve kids and technology and some new ideas brought to the table. So we would love to see all of you guys involved. We have, let's see. We have different levels that you can sponsor in at. And I think what we're going to do is those that are in at our platinum level, we're going to put a link to your website, your page. So that way, anybody that pulls up this information can click and see who you are, a lot about you, and maybe even have some contact information on there. So we are in the beginning stages of this. I learned a little bit more that once they get all this together, I believe we'll have a ribbon cutting and be inviting some people out to get their pictures. And so that's a little bit more information we have today. We'll be updating you along the way. And if you'd like to see who our donation people right now are, they're on the page, which I think she has up. Oh, she's showing the pictures. Can you back up to that a minute? I'm looking at one screen and she has another. We love technology. So can they see this on the shared screen too, our Zoomers? Awesome. So if you see some of the slides up here, you'll see some of the things that we'll be putting in these learning labs. Right now, we're just taking a basic empty room. The designer is going to go in there and paint it, make it kid and child friendly. They've presented several ideas as far as the painting theme. And so we'll all get to be a part of that And I believe they're going to invite us out for what they call just a slap on the paint, the base coat paint. So we'll get you some more information as we develop and go further. Our first sponsor was Eddie Arnold with Tri-Oak Financial. And then we have H.A. Cherry Enterprises. We thank you for their commitment already, and we look forward to having you all as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. That's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll get really started on that this summer and get to do our hands-on part of that with the paint and building the furniture and all the fun stuff that goes along with it. And we know that our students at Martin Elementary are going to be very excited when we get that ready for them. Our program today is on polio, and so I'm going to turn it over to our chair of that committee, Arne Almquist.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Okay. I'll get right into it. I'd like to ask you to direct your attention to the screen for a short video introduction.
We've forgotten how afraid we were. In 1952, the threat was real. Parents were advised to keep children away from crowds. Pools closed and movie theaters went dark. Hysteria grew. People were quarantined. It was the worst polio outbreak the United States had ever seen. But it's not ancient history. It's still circulating. As recently as 1988, the World Health Organization estimates that the world saw more than 350,000 new polio cases that year alone. That's nearly 1,000 new cases per day. But through the largest global health initiative in history, we've gone from 350,000 cases annually to just 74 in all of 2015. That's a staggering 99.9% reduction. But we can't quit now. If we don't stop circulation of the virus, we risk reinfection and outbreaks. That's why getting to zero matters. We're not saying it'll be easy. Vaccination in these countries is complex and expensive. In our ultra-connected world, the disease is never more than a plane ride away. Within 10 years, failure to eradicate polio from these last remaining strongholds could result in as many as 200,000 new cases every year. We've immunized 2.5 billion children in the world's largest, most sophisticated global health initiative. Our commitment to eradication matters now more than ever. We are on the cusp of making history.
I welcome you to a belated but a very exciting Polio Day at Beaumont Rotary. Belated due to COVID, but exciting because we're able to be here together at the Elegante at last to hear the latest about the progress that has been made in eradicating that dread disease, polio. The video that you just saw is 4 years old, but I thought it particularly apt today as we've passed through another pandemic. Seem familiar? Quarantines, an unseen disease, fear may strike a familiar chord with us, but I'm happy to report that the scourge of polio is about to disappear from the world, and not a moment too soon. I'm joined today by past District Governor Chuck Mason, who's going to tell us a little bit about a way in which various groups are uniting to increase the impact of our donations. And also by Sharon, who will introduce us to our latest Paul Harris Plus donors. Chuck.
As I look around the room today, I'm reminded that I'm a past district governor, and our club always responds to governors and past district governors with a great presence. As I look out at all the empty tables, this is pretty normal for any time a governor speaks. I have to warn you, there are 3 past governors in the audience today, and we've probably got Roger online too. So any of us may break out speaking at any one time. For the last 5 years, I've been the in polio coordinator for our zone, which comprises 7 of the 9 districts in Texas. We're small, but we carry a lot of punch. We quite a bit above our size normally in polio contributions. A lot of y'all who have been in Rotary a long time, probably say, why are we still trying to raise money for polio? Well, even though the numbers have gone down, you still got to do almost the same things regardless of the number of people that are still being affected. You still got to immunize all the kids, even if a country has been declared polio free for several years, you continue to immunize them. You continue to do water samples, different things like that to make sure you don't have an outbreak. A few years ago, we thought Nigeria had gone 3 years without a single case, and then they discovered 2 in the area that was controlled by the Boko Haram group. You can pronounce it however you want to. But they finally worked another 3 years and completely eliminated. That's what we're working on in Afghanistan and Pakistan. To do that, it takes a lot of money. Rotary has committed to $50,000 in contributions this year, next year, and until we finish this. Luckily, we've got a lot of other people working with us. We've got the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, UNICEF, CDC, World Health Organization, another group called Gavi, which is a vaccine group. Anyway, our important thing right now is we're coming up at the end of our year, and Bill and Melinda Gates have pledged to match our contributions up to our $50,000, $50 million. They'll match it 2 to 1. So our contributions could amount to 150 million. To implement that in our district, last year we had a challenge that we put forth to try to get people to put more money into it. We had a couple of Rotarians who pledged to match any of the funds that were given in the last month and a half or so of the year, which ends June 30th. As a result of that, our district was the #1 district in our zone, which also includes Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. So as you might imagine, I'm pretty proud of that, and I hope you are too. We still got the same type of challenge today. It's a little structured a little bit different, but we have another challenge within the district. I'll get to that in just a second, but I want to tell you about a challenge that we've got within our club, announcing it today. If you contribute $50 or more between now and the end of the year, we'll have matching points that will given to you toward your Paul Harris Fellow or multiple Paul Harris Fellows. If you give $50, there'll be a match of another 50 points. If you do 10,000, we'll match you 10,000 on that. It'll make you look real good. Okay, now why are we doing that? Well, we're doing that to try to encourage you to give money to the Rotary Foundation, either the annual fund or the polio fund. So this year, we've got another challenge going on. And let's see. Okay. is that last year's slide or this year's slide? Oh, well, doesn't make any difference. Basically, what's happening for the first $50,000 of additional contributions, we have two different Rotarians in our district that are offering a match. One is doing a 50% match on it. I mean, 100% match on that $50,000. And the other one is offering a $25,000 match or a 50% match. So if you look at the figures, what it adds up is by the time all those things are added together, that $50,000, first, it generates $125,000 just from money within our district. Then the Bill and Melinda Gates match that 2-to-1, so that's $250,000. And so it ends up that $50,000 that our district puts in amounts to $375,000 in polio funding. And that funding is used in the coming year. Every cent of it is spent on the polio eradication. So I need y'all to pony up. This is our chance to really make a difference. It'll save a lot of kids a life of misery, pure misery. In a third world country with polio, it's, you know, they have no options at all. So we want to get rid of this, but we're depending on you to come through and help us do that. If we match these funds and go just a couple of $1,000s more, we'll end up surpassing what we did last year and surpassing what our total amount of accomplishments, which was almost $900,000 when you mixed in all the other matches that were done. So think about it. Where can you put your money where you get over a 7-to-1 return on it? Polio eradication in our district, in our club, will do that. Please think about it, take action on it. If you want to take advantage of it, if you would send your checks directly to the club and mark on your check whether you want it to go to the annual fund or the polio fund, and we'll keep a record of that where you can get your matching points as well. And all of us come out ahead on this. So thank you very, yes, Becky. The deadline is for the 1.5-to-1 match on the money is actually June 15th, because the people that have offered the matching funds have to know what it is before they can donate those funds. For the points, it's just through the end of the year. So we'll take your money however you want to do it. So thank you very much. Yep. No, it should be to the Rotary Foundation. The Rotary Foundation. Yes. I'm sorry. Talk to Jackie. I have no idea. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. Do you remember this? Okay, we're this close to eradicating polio. I first saw that when it was introduced at the Rotary International Conference in Montreal all the way back in 2010. With all of the progress that we have made since then, we're still this far away. How about this far? How about this far? Please take a look at this, this chart. We are now down to 2 cases in 2 countries as far as we've gone through the year so far through May. Pakistan and Afghanistan are those 2 countries. Iran has been polio free since before 2016. Nigeria is on the verge of being polio free with no cases since 2016. But look at Afghanistan. 56 cases in 2020, 5 cases in the first third of last year. This year, 1 case. How about Pakistan? Another problem spot. 84 in 2020, almost half of which occurred in the first 4 months of the year. This year, 1. We're going to win this battle. As we do, we will have eliminated a disease for only the 2nd time in human history. The first time being the elimination of smallpox. And incidentally, smallpox, it's estimated, killed 60% of the people that it infected. Its eradication took thousands of years. They were actually vaccinating for smallpox thousands of years ago. They had discovered that, cowpox, etc., and it would disappear, and then they would try again, and so on and so forth. But eventually, they eliminated smallpox to the point where it only exists in the laboratory. The battle against polio has taken a much shorter time. The discovery of effective vaccines in the 1950s, the great acceleration of the battle when Rotary came on board in the early 1980s. In the video, it was mentioned that the number of cases had dropped to 15 in 2015. And since then, as you can see on this chart, the number of cases has bounced around. But here we are at 2 cases. What fantastic progress. While we're on the verge of being polio free, we can't yet rest. Some are already looking forward to the next disease to eradicate. The consensus at this point seems to be malaria. From the developed world, it has pretty much disappeared. But it continues to take or ruin lives throughout the developing world. It's too early to take our eye off the polio ball. As the video pointed out, those 2 cases could expand quickly through a mobile, globe-trotting population. We must bring those cases down to 0 and sustain that level for several years to be truly polio-free. So here we now are, but soon, hopefully, we'll be here. We need to keep up the fight. We need to continue the switch to a dead virus vaccine. You may not be aware, but the vaccine that has been used for years, the 2 little drops, was a live virus vaccine, and that live virus is starting to escape out into the wild. So we've moved to a dead virus, but that means that people have to be given shots. It's a little bit harder to administer, and so it's harder to roll out the big campaigns that are needed to vaccinate those last children. To continue with that job, we need to provide the resources to enable us to finish it. Providing the resources are our Rotarian donors, chiefly our Paul Harris Fellows. And I will now call Sharon Almquist forward to recognize our latest batch of Paul Harris donors.
Well, it's a hard act to follow, as it usually is, but here we go. Paul Harris Fellow recognition. It is certainly my pleasure to be up here talking about this today. Rotarians often associate the naming of a Paul Harris Fellow as a tribute to a person who has demonstrated a shared purpose and support for the educational and humanitarian objectives of the Rotary Foundation. The Paul Harris Fellow recognition acknowledges individuals who contribute $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation. Rotary established the Paul Harris Fellow in 1957, and it is, of course, named for Rotary's founder, Paul Harris. In being presented with a Paul Harris Fellow recognition, recipients join a remarkable company of people throughout the world, all recognized for their commitment of service above self to benefit local and international communities, and certainly polio is one of those. In our case here at the Beaumont Rotary Club, all of the recipients are Paul Harris Plus. That is, they have financially committed to Rotary $1,000 for each plus, each extra stone on their medallion, an extra $1,000. So, and this goes beyond the first Paul Harris contribution. So it gives me great pleasure to present our fellow Rotarians and congratulate them on their commitment to Rotary's common goals of world understanding and peace as all plus Paul Harris members. And President Cindy will be handing out the pins, and I'm going to do it by all the plus numbers. We go from 8 to 1. +8, Arnie Almquist. We have 2 +4s. So Phil Dunlap and Wesley Shipley, congratulations, +4. And thank you. Now we have a +3, Michael Wolf, +3. And now we have 4 +1s. I'll call them individually. Joanne Brown, +1. He's doing one at a time. Our next +1, Charles Hare. And we have yet another, Jay Wilson, +1. And our final +1 can't be with us here today, but let's recognize Michael Perez, +1 Paul Harris Fellow. When I was putting this together, I was amazed because I was looking at the statement and it said, everyone's a plus Paul Harris. So I thought, you know, that is really very exciting for this club and for Rotary. Thank you.
So I'd like to add a heartfelt thank you to our donors. You're making this fight possible. Our success has made it easy to forget the pain and suffering caused by this virus, but those of us who are old enough to remember seeing the children who were disabled, the adults who had suffered paralysis or deformities that affected them throughout their lives, parents and relatives who had grown up with polio's effects, either with their children or with other relatives. We remember and are dedicated to seeing that the generations of those yet to be born will never have to face this scourge. It will be a great pleasure in the near future to be able to announce the demise of polio, and I am hopeful that we will see one or both of the remaining endemic countries enter the group of the polio-free, maybe as soon as next year. I thank you.
Thank you to the Almquist for bringing our program today. And Arnie, that was some great information you brought. I've been in Rotary now about a dozen years, and just to see it go down to 2 cases is pretty awe-inspiring. So as Chuck suggested, make a donation to the Rotary Foundation, not the Beaumont Rotary Foundation, the Rotary Foundation. You'll get all those matches and it'll feel like you're getting a really big bang for your buck. And look what we can do. I mean, we've already got it down to 2. So that's some great, great news. In your honor, we will be making a donation to the End Polio Now in your names for bringing our program to us today. So thank you again to the Almquist. In closing, please consider also a donation to the Build a Nest project that is on our webpage. So if you pull up the Beaumont Rotary Club webpage, you can see some of the pictures of what it's going to look like and what your money is going to go to. Next week, we'll enjoy a program by Dr. Danny Lovett with Region 5 Education Service Center. He'll be speaking about the school systems and the effect the COVID pandemic has had on the education system and how schools will function in the fall. So let's close out our meeting together by standing and reciting the four-way test of the things that we think, say, or do. First, is it true? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you for attending Rotary today. Go out and find opportunities to lead and serve.